Okay. Yeah, so this is second session of LWC, and in first session, we talked about introduction of LWC, right? And what is all about LWC and why Salesforce introduced LWC. Yeah, that thing I am not going to repeat, but however, there is a recording and I can make the preview on for all. So you can watch the first session, and when you watch this session again, this second session which we are going to do today now, right? So you'll get better understanding, right? So let me share my screen. So basically today topic is all about LWC life cycle hook. So as all we know, if you just for example, Sunil has told ki I am here for enhancing my LWC skills, and someone also told he is working on he has already working on Apex, right, development and admin, and looking for LWC, right? So I think you must have some basic understanding about what is LWC. Basically, when we want to make custom component on Lightning interface, Salesforce has two interfaces, right? One is classic and another one is Lightning experience. So in Lightning experience, if you want to make any custom UI, so LWC is there, right? Means basically in simple terms, if you can talk, LWC is all about custom UI. If you want, right, custom UI, right? But the benefit of LWC is all about we can use all the features of modern JavaScript. There is no dependency of if you want to learn LWC, you have to learn something different programming language. No, if you know JavaScript better, if you know as someone, I think Firoz told he already teaching HTML, CSS. So, and he must be knowing the JavaScript also. So he knows JavaScript, HTML, CSS, then he can work on LWC. So basically, this is platform independent. LWC framework is platform independent. If you know JavaScript, you can work on LWC. So basically in simple terms, LWC is all about making the custom UI in Salesforce. So today we will talk about LWC life cycle hook. Life cycle hook means when we make a UI using LWC, and during that during what phases are there, means when we are making a component and we are putting at any place, and during that what is happening before the component creation, during the component creation, after the component creation, and if we are doing any doing an event, during that event what is the what happens, right? So this is all about life cycle hooks. So first line, if you read in LWC, there are callback methods that are used to handle life cycle of the component, and these callback methods are called life cycle hooks. Means basically life cycle hook is nothing. These are callback methods. These are methods. And life cycle callback method is triggered at a specific phase of a component instance life cycle. Means before the component creation, during the component creation, after the component creation, these methods get called, and we do a specific we put a specific logic in that method to make and change the behavior of the LWC. So if you read the third line, I have written here, life cycle hooks are nothing. They are callback methods which are called at different stages of component. And we can override these methods to change the behavior of the component. So for example, if we have make a form, right, and on form load, we have to perform some logic, right? And if the form is loaded completely, we have to perform some logic, right? If you are doing some event like inputting any value in the element of the form, there is something I have to write some business logic. So we have to understand all the life cycle. If we understand properly how the life cycle works, we can write easily LWC. So if you talk about life cycle hooks, we talked about these are methods. So these are the basically you can see these are the life cycle hooks: constructor, connected callback, rendered callback, render, disconnected callback, error callback. So no worries, we will talk one by one by giving the example also. I will give the example. I will give the practical example. So basically life cycle hooks are nothing, the methods. These are the methods. And now we can see ki what are the purpose of this method, and in this method what can we do and what we cannot do. We can see, right? So now we can come to the practical things and see the demo. So we talked about constructor, connected callback, and rendered callback, render, disconnected callback, and error callback. Now we have to see ki how, when these methods called, means sequencing of the method, when these methods get called. So first of all, we see ki when these methods call. Currently just focus on first three. We'll talk later about these three. So currently we talk about first three: constructor, connected callback, and rendered callback. So okay, here I have made a component, and if you don't have, if you someone has not worked on VS Code, so this is a VS Code interface on which we develop LWC, right? And we deploy it to our Salesforce org. So if you want to create a LWC component, here is LWC, and here from here you can create Lightning Web component. So here I have create one component named parent. So in LWC, there are three files. We have discussed all these in first session. Parent.html. First one is HTML file, second one is JS file, and third one is meta file. So meta file tells ki where we have to expose this component in Salesforce org. If you want to expose on Lightning record page, app page, home page, in community builder, in record action. So this meta file tells about this, right? So we'll not get into that, right? So let's see. So here I have made a parent component, and if you see this, the syntax, everything's come within the template tag. So this is nothing but you can see that this is HTML. You can see that HTML tags. You can use HTML tags. However, there are some Lightning based components here. For example, Lightning card. Lightning card is a Lightning based component. If you want to make a card type look and feel, so you can use Lightning card. So we will not go into that details, right? So this is a HTML file, and in JS file, these are the syntax. So just ignore this syntax. We have to focus on these methods. So I have written all the methods: constructor, connected callback, rendered callback, disconnected callback, error callback. We will not, just as of now, we will not see this. We will talk about first these three methods. So constructor. So this is the syntax. And if you can see constructor in the first line of the constructor, I have written super. So if you are from Java background or any object-oriented programming background, so the first line must be a super in the constructor, because super calls the parent constructor. So the purpose of the putting super here, if the parent class is not parent class constructor has not called, means we have not called the parent class constructor, so there we cannot do the right things. So first of all, if you are calling the constructor, so we have to must call the parent constructor, and here parent is Lightning element. If you see the syntax, Lightning element is here a parent class. So we have to call the constructor of Lightning element. So Lightning element class is basically, you can say that it's a custom wrapper of HTML elements. Means in simple terms, if you have to make the LWC component, we have to extend this class, right? So first of all, constructor, there should be a super method. I have written console.log. This is a basic syntax of JavaScript. So nothing new. Console.log, it will print on console.log. Parent constructor called. Then there is another method, connected callback. Basically, these all methods are from lightning element class, right? I have extended lightning element class. So constructor, connected callback, rendered callback, we'll talk these two methods later. And rendered callback, console.log parent render callback method call. So first of all, see the sequence of these methods, how they are getting called. When I'm loading this component on in my Salesforce org. So what I have done in my Salesforce org, if you see, I have made a app, right? And in app, I have made an app page. This is an app page, life cycle hook. And why this component is coming here? Because in the meta file, I have exposed it to true and I have set a target lightning app page. If I remove this target here, it will not come here. It will give an error. So that's how we expose our lightning wave component to anywhere, right? If you want to place on app page, we have to give this target. If you want to place on lightning record page, we have to give this target, right? So that is about. So let's see. I am loading this component. And if we see, if you inspect and see the console, and let me scroll. So if you see the sequencing of the methods, you can see easily. Parent constructed called. फिर parent, then parent connected callback method called. फिर parent rendered callback method called. So this means on the load, first of all, constructor get called. Then after constructor, connected callback method called. Then rendered callback method called. So this is the sequence. Now let's understand the sequence in better way. If this parent component has another component, means child component. Let's see. So this is a basic, this is a HTML. So you can say that this is a parent component, means one component. There is no any other component. This component is independent, right? A standalone component. There is no component inside it. Now we are putting another component inside it. So I have made another component child one. If you see here, I have created one child one component. And I have to put this component here. So let's put. So when you put another component inside another component, this syntax C hyphen child, and you see the name of the file, child one and child one. If you see O is capital, so whenever you encounter a capital letter, just before that we have to give the hyphen, means this is called kebab case notation. So for example, the child component name is child one. So how we call this component in parent component, the notation would be in kebab notation. And how kebab notation, what is kebab notation? Means whenever you encounter any capital letter, you just have to prefix, just before that capital letter, you have to prefix hyphen dash one and keep all the words in a small letter. See child one. So if you see opening and closing. So this is also a simple component. Inside it, I have written hello, I am child one. Just ignore all the text if you are not similar about this tag. But these tags are nothing. These tags are all about HTML template. This template means everything written under template tag. Means whatever you want to whatever structure you want to give for your lightning component, right? This all HTML structure will come within the template tag. So here just it is a plain text. Hello, I am a child one. And in this JS file, of the child, I've also called this method constructor, connected callback, rendered callback. Just ignore these two methods as of now. And I have printed child one constructor called, child one connected callback method called, and child one rendered callback method called. Great, that's great, Firoz. So you must you must be understanding what I am saying, right? So I have put this child component in the parent. Now I am deploying. So from where I can deploy this source means I am deploying it to the Salesforce org, my Salesforce org. So it is getting deployed. It will, maybe it will take, yeah, it is deployed. So now I am refreshing. Now I am refreshing. So basically, these all are basics. If you don't know the basics, how things generally, as Ritesh sir told, I have 10 years of experience, and I have encountered so many people who do the coding, but what they are writing, they don't know why it is written, and they stuck at some point if they've encountered some complex logic written, right? So I have put one child component here that comes, right? The text written in the child component is also get printed. Hello, I am child one. This is a parent component content, and this is a child component content. Means this child component is inside the parent component. Now we look the console and see the sequencing of the methods called. See parent constructor called, then parent connected callback method called, then you see child one constructor called, then you see child one connected callback method called. But here is the catch. If you see child one rendered callback method called, parent rendered callback method called. So if you understand it properly, constructor and connected callback method called like a parent to child. Their execution flow are from parent to child. Means first of all, parent constructor will be called, then parent connected callback method will be called, then child. But in case of rendered callback, first child component rendered callback method will be called, then parent rendered callback method will be called. So if you know the sequencing, and now we will talk about what are the features of this method, what we can do in these methods, right? What we cannot do in these methods. And if we know the sequence, then we can build whatever we want, whatever we get the requirement, right? So if we know the features inside this method, we can do and we cannot do, means what are the limitations. And if we know the sequencing of how these methods are getting called, then we can write proper logic. So, yeah, anyone?
Sir, yeah, sir. Anil this side, sir. Can you show us the code?
Sorry?
Code in VS Code, like.
Yes.
Parent. So first is parent.
Yeah, here is the, yeah, let me repeat. Here is the parent component, okay? Template. And in parent component, there are some HTML written, and I have called one another component, child one. Right? Yes. Tell me your question.
In the console, it was parent constructor was called, right?
Right.
So where it is written in the code? In the JS file.
In the JS. This is the constructor of parent.
Right. So parent constructor was called. So this got executed first.
Right.
And then connected callback.
Right.
Connected. So, but after these two, the control went again back to the parent HTML. The third one didn't call.
Yeah, then because we currently we are discussing about the sequencing, but we know the features of rendered callback. Rendered callback means it will call after the rendering phase of the component. So the parent component has not been rendered completely because the child component is getting rendered, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after the child component getting rendered, then it will call the rendered callback method of parent. That's why it did not get call, right? First child get rendered, then parent get called, right?
Right.
So let me repeat once again. Constructor and connected callback are called in flow of parent to child, and rendered callback method call in flow of child to parent. I hope everyone understand.
Yes, sir.
Irfan, Akshay, any question here? These all are basics. These all are basics, but we get confused. I'll get you confused here. I will give another example here. So we are just,
Parent,
yes, sir.
so parent and connected callback still is confusing. I mean, what is the usage? Still, I am not able to understand. But maybe in complex example, we can able to understand.
No, Irfan, we are just discussing about the sequence of how these methods are getting called. We
Yeah,
will
that is
discuss
clear.
about the
Yeah,
features of these methods, right? What
yeah,
these
yeah.
methods do,
Yeah.
what are the significance of these methods, right? We are just discussing about the sequencing of these methods. So is it clear or not?
Yeah, that is clear.
Yes. So we are just currently we are just discussing about first three methods. We will discuss later about these three because these have some complexity also. So currently we are discussing about three methods. Now we have seen the sequencing of these methods in case of one component, and in case of one component inside another component. Means there is a parent component and there is a child component. We have seen, right? Now I am putting one another component. I have made a child too. If you understand this properly, you will never get confused, and and you can means I'm saying that these basics are so much important. If you understand this clearly, you can tackle any situation, right? So I am putting another component. I have made child 2. This is also basic component. I have written here, hello, I am child 2. So now come to the parent HTML and calling this method. How we'll call this method? We already discussed in kebab case notation. What is kebab case notation? It is whenever we encountered any capital letter, we just have to prefix, we have to just prefix before, right? A dash. Child 2. Save. Now I am deploying this. Now we see. So here child 2 component content are also visible, right? So let's understand this is a parent component, and inside parent component there are two child component. Now let's see the sequencing. Means if I draw here, this is a parent component and there are two child component, C1 and C2. This is the structure I have, right? And if you are thinking why we are making so much components putting, so yeah, so we have to, when we want reusability, we make another component and put inside that. We don't write everything inside one component. So that is the uses of different components inside another component, right? For example, there is utility that if I pass any number, it gives the square of that number. So I will not write that logic everywhere. I just made one utility component and call everywhere. So that is the purpose of putting different components inside one component, right? So this is the structure, parent and child component 1 and child component 2, right? So now let's see the sequencing very carefully. See, parent constructor called means parent constructor called. See the diagram, then visualize. Then it will be easy to understand. Parent constructor called, then parent connected callback method call means we are on parent it's right now. Then child one constructor called, this one child one constructor called, child one connected callback called, we write the child one connected callback called. Then here you can see child one rendered callback method called. And after that, parent render method did not get called because there is another child method, child component present. Then the life cycle of this component will also run first. Then life cycle, what is the life cycle? Constructor, connected callback, then rendered. Then in the last, you see parent rendered callback method called. So in simple terms, just remember, constructor and parent connected callback flows from parent to child, and rendered callback flows from child to parent. So in case of these two components, the sequencing will matter, right? If you see C1 component, child one connected callback, child one constructor called, child one connected callback method called, then child one rendered callback method called. And after that, it should call the, as we discussed in the previous example, it should call the parent rendered callback, but it did not call because parent component is still in rendering phase. Because why? Because there is also another component loading. There is also another component loading. So that's why the life cycle of this component will also execute first, right? Then you can see child two constructor called, child to connected callback method called, child to rendered callback method called, then in the last parent rendered callback method called. So I hope we are clear about these three life cycle hooks of LWC. And these are the very, very important life cycle hooks methods. You can say simple, these are very, very important methods of the LWC. And we see and we saw how the sequencing of these three methods. Any question here?
So, sir, parent render callback will be called at the end. Once all the child's method constructor will be called, then last the parent render callback will be called.
Right. Means, yeah, in simple terms, rendered callback method only called after the render of component, right? Because if there will be three components inside it, so right, so that the life cycle of that component will also run. Means basically all the child component, all the life cycle of child components will run first, then parent, right? Let's don't get confused. Simple, constructor and connected callback parent to child, and rendered callback child to parent. Simple hai. Agar if you remember this point line, you will never get confused. Simple hai na? If you see, now repeat this example again. This is the structure, parent and child one and child two. Now see the sequencing. How we discussed how constructor flow, parent to child, then parent constructor called, right? This parent constructor of this component called, parent connected callback method called, connected callback this of component called. After that, child one constructor called. Why child one constructor? Because it is written first. If I put this above, the sequencing of the life cycle, right? The sequencing of here differ, right? So sequencing of child components states you which life cycle calls first, right? Yeah, so C1. So child one constructor called, child one connected callback method called, child one rendered callback method called. So here C1 is rendered completely because child one rendered callback method called. Now After child, because rendered callback method flows from child to parent. So now it should call the parent rendered callback, but parent is not rendered. There is also another child component present. So the life cycle of this component will also run first. Then parent rendered callback will call. Then child to constructor called, child to connected callback method call, then child to rendered callback method call. Now here, after this this line, all these two components have been rendered successfully. Now parent will be rendered, and after parent rendered, the rendered callback method will be called. Then last, parent rendered callback method called. Got it? Irfan, Akshay, Anil sir, got it?
Yes, sir, I understood.
Right.
Yes, sir, got it.
Okay, fine. Let me clear the annotation. Yeah. So now let's look about the features of these three methods. Features. We saw the sequencing of these three methods. Now we see the features. As we discussed, it flows from parent to child. It will move from parent to child. First, constructor of the parent will be called, then child will be called. Constructor life cycle hook is the one that gets invoked when the instance of the component is created. Means, as we know, when we create the object of the class, constructor gets called. So similarly, you can relate that example. Whenever component instance of the component is created, constructor get called. As a mandate, we need to invoke super, since every component extend lightning element. As I mentioned earlier, this line is a mandate to write in constructor. Now we can see what we can do in the constructor. We can set the value of the properties in constructor. We have not talked about the properties, but simple properties all about variables. We'll discuss about variables. So, right, we cannot access elements inside constructor. What does it say? It means कि instance of component is created, but elements have not been rendered properly. So you cannot access HTML elements, and you can say simple terms. Let me come on the example. For example, this is a component, access element example. This is a component, and in this component, I have made one lightning button. In HTML, we make the button using the HTML tag, right? In LWC, there is a lightning based component for that. However, we can also write a HTML tag here also. So whatever suits you, right? But we use lightning based components because these all are compatible with the Salesforce environment. So lightning button, what is lightning button? It will display a button. So in this template, I have just written lightning button. Now see the here. In the constructor, I am trying to access. Sorry. I'm trying to access this element. I'm trying to access this element, but I cannot do that because at the time of the instance creation, these elements have not been rendered. It means these elements have not been attached to document object model. Means in simple term, have not been attached to the screen. So in constructor, we cannot access elements. We can see this example later, right? We can call apex method. Those who know about Salesforce. Yes,
sir. Can you please repeat that? I did not understand that.
Okay, so let's understand by example only, right? So I am lightning button dot label, right? So come, let's run this example, then you can understand. So here I have made another lightning app page. I have made very simple example, practical example to understand. So here I have made another app page, access element example. So here you can see the exception. Cannot read properties of null. Why it is coming? Because in the constructor, I am trying to access lightning button. And lightning button basically is an element. And as we know that at the time of the constructor, when constructor is getting called, these elements are not in the screen, in the simple terms. It has not been attached to the DOM. They are in creation phase, right? And during the creation phase, you are trying to access. So that is not possible in constructor.
Okay.
In connected, so that's why this error. Now let's talk about later connected callback, rendered callback. Simple. We are trying to access this element, and what is the syntax we'll discuss about later also. This dot template query selector. If you want to access any element, there is a query, this dot template query selector, and you give the lightning button, the element name, basically lightning button. You can access. We can call apex method. Means in constructor you can call apex method. Apex, if you know, if someone does not know Apex, Apex is a programming language on Salesforce. Whatever we develop, whatever we develop on Salesforce, it is Apex, you can say. So Apex is a programming language which runs only on Salesforce platform. We cannot create custom events in constructor. So we'll talk later. Now we are talking about the features of this method, what we can do, what we cannot do. And we'll encounter all these things in the coming sessions. So don't worry about this. I have not told you what is the elements, how can we access, why we are not accessing, what is Apex method, we all know. We cannot create custom events. Custom events is a different chapter here, different chapter, complete chapter, because custom event was about creating the events and transferring the data between two components, two related components, child to parent, parent to child, right? So this is a complete different, you can say a separate session we will do for custom events. We can use navigation service. Navigation service means on the load we can redirect to another page, record page, any other URL. Means navigate, we can navigate to some page. So in constructor we can write also code. We can make a call to UI record API inside the constructor. And this is a, you can say that this is a feature of LWC. UI record API is basically we can create, delete, update, query Salesforce record without using code. As we write in Apex, if we have to create a Salesforce record, we have to write the code, right? If we have to update any record, we have to write the code. If we have to delete any record, we have to write the code. If we have to query any record, we have to write the code. But using this API inside LWC, we don't have to write the code. It will directly create the record, update the record. So this is, we will talk in coming sessions. So I hope we understand about the constructor. Now connected callback. So connected callback, as we discussed, its execution flows from parent to child. We cannot access child component elements in the connected callback since they are not inserted yet. So basically, if in connected callback, we cannot access the child component elements because child component has not been rendered yet, because it is flowing from parent to child. So parent to child, if there is any child component present, we cannot access child component things in the parent connected callback method. Let's take this example where this is a parent component. There are two child components here, and inside the connected callback, I cannot access child 2, child 1 components. Why? Because the life cycle has not run yet. because now it is running for parent component only, parent to child have not come into existence till now. Sequencing, visualize the sequencing. Now it is in the connected callback, parent is into existence, not child. So that's why you cannot access child elements. Means it is called when LWC component inserted into DOM. Means it means, let's see. Let's see the example by, let me child. Okay. Let me remove this. And here I'm making alert. Constructor. Here connected callback. Now I'm deploying from here. So we are talking about features of connected callback. So I've told it is called when LWC component inserted into DOM. This means all the elements have been inserted into the DOM. Let's see.
Sir, what is DOM, sir?
Basically, DOM, you can say document object model. I am telling you what is DOM. So let's see, constructor. Now the component is getting created. Means its instance has been created, but it is not inserted into DOM. Now it is inserted into DOM right here. Means this screen is visible, means it is inserted into DOM in simple terms. Means it is attached to the screen. It is attached to the DOM. This is means I am able to access. I am able to see the contents of the component in simple terms. Got it?
नहीं आया समझ में sir.
Okay. Okay, no worries. This line says it is called when LWC component inserted into DOM. Means if it is not inserted, I will not see this screen. If during instance creation there will be error, connected callback method will not call. Means all the elements, whatever we have written in the HTML file, it is rendered, it is, you can say it is inserted, it is rendered, it is inserted properly on the screen. Then connected callback method is called.
Okay.
Right?
So basically the HTML component will be displayed on the UI.
Right.
Meaning it got inserted into DOM and hence the connected callback will be called.
Right. So in connected callback, you can what you can do, you can fetch data from the database. You can initialize variables in the connected callbacks, right? So these all will get attached to the screen, right?
Okay.
For example, let me give you another example. I am creating one variable. Let's see, greeting. And greeting equal to hello. Now I am binding this property. So to bind the property, we have to put between two curly braces. We will discuss about all this, right? We have not come onto the variable things, right? So we will discuss also. So with simple terms, I have created one variable. I have initialized in the connected callback. I have given the value hello. and I have binded on my HTML. So when I call and reload this page, it will get greeting is not defined. Okay, sorry, this dot. We'll talk about this keyword also, this dot. So whatever we declare inside the class, it's a, you can say, global variable, and to refer the global variables inside any method, we have to use this keyword. So that's why it was coming error. Greetings variable is not defined, because if you don't use this dot here, so it will treat local variable. It will try to find where is the local greetings declared locally, but it was not there. That's why the error is coming. So now it will not come. Constructor connected callback. Now you can see hello is there. So you can initialize any variables. So this is a simple example. Initialize and right. So you can initialize. We can do sorry, query here in the connected callback. So basically, connected callback method will be called whenever when LWC component inserted into the DOM. It is called. It is we have seen it is invoked after constructor hook fired. Means constructor, after constructor it will be get called. In this function, we can access only host element. And what is host element? Let's see. In this function, we can access only host element. So if you talk about host element here, it is a template. Template is the host. The host means who is hosting someone. Means if you have come to my home, I am your host and I am hosting you. Means you are inside my home, right? So in this HTML file, template tag is host. All other HTML elements are inside the template. Means host, who is the host element? Template is the host element. So it is saying in this function we can access only host element. So let's see example of access. I am it will give error. I am accessing the lightning button. Means lightning button, but lightning button is not a host element. It is inside the template tag. So it will also not let's see what is coming. Access element example. Cannot read properties of level. Okay, we have required lightning button. Yeah, lightning button. Okay, fine. Why it is coming? Let me deploy once again. Rendered callback this dot template query selector. Rendered callback this dot template dot query selector. Okay. Now let's see. Yeah, you can see here it is coming null. But we'll talk about later this click me. But inside rendered callback, it get printed. So inside rendered callback, I am able to access the elements. But inside the constructor and inside the connected callback, I am not able to access the elements. So in constructor, we cannot access any elements, but in connected callback, we can access host element, that is template, but cannot access these elements. But in rendered callback, we can access these elements also, and we can perform whatever we want. For example, on my requirement is that whenever component loads, access this button and change the label of this. So I can do that. I can do that easily using rendered callback. So let's see this example. If we no, let's first talk about the connected callback. When we see about rendered callback, we see the example. So I hope we are clear on this. Only Anil sir is asking question. No one is asking question. I hope everyone is getting little bit understanding. Sunil sir, Firoz Khan, Dhirendra, Amrendra, you are all getting right. I think they are not able to unmute, sorry. So let me unmute. So everyone can unmute themselves right now. Sorry, I forgot. So anyone have question till now? Firoz, thank you. Apart from Firoz, sir, anyone who is understanding or not able to understand?
I understood.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so we are so in this function we can access only host element. I discussed template. The host element is the custom element that is attached to the browser DOM for your component to be rendered. Basically, the host element is template here. So you can access template tag here. If we want fire any logic on component load, example dispatching event, assigning values to properties, I am also writing getting values from database means Salesforce object. So we can write the logic inside the connected callback. Dispatching event means we will talk. If, for example, on the load, I want to send information to another component. Event means basically passing, means one component has fired the event and someone has listened that event, handled the event. So if I am firing the event, I must be passing some data to another someone. So dispatching event means I am passing data. So in connected callback, we can create event also and pass some data. My requirement is that on the component creation, I have to pass some values to another component, right? There will be some example, right? We'll talk about when we read about custom events. Assign values to properties, right? As you already seen, I have assigned greetings, right, in another example. And we can also call a apex function, apex methods here. So we'll talk about later this, right? We are just discussing about the features of these methods, right? These all features will read one by one in coming sessions. Now, rendered callback. This hooks flows from child to parent. Means first these two are from parent to child, but this rendered callback will flow from child to parent, as we already seen in the example, right? In the console, how the sequencing of these methods, right? Simple, just remember constructor and connected callback parent to child, rendered callback child to parent. Simple. Don't get confused. In simple, if you are dealing with nested parent-child component, rendered callback method in child component will get fired first. We have already shown. I have already shown you this example. I have put it two component inside the parent component, and how the sequencing of rendered callback we have already seen, right? So this is this line saying, right? Use this method when we want to use some logic after component has done the rendering phase. Means it's saying ki after rendering phase, you want to perform some logic. Then we can use rendered callback. But we have to use rendered callback very carefully. Why? Because render means whatever we do changes. For example, let me give you example here. Means render means whatever we change in the JS, and if that property changes, and if that property is reactive, the component gets rendered again, and the rendered method will call again and again. So we have to very cautious about using the rendered callback, because it will fire again and again. Means in simple terms, if you are changing any properties, for example, let me show you example here. So let's understand using this example only, right? You can set properties in rendered callback, but best practice is do not use rendered callback. I will show you the example now. We can access elements. We have already seen how we are accessing that. You have seen in connected callback it was coming null, but in rendered callback it was showing. Let me run the example once again. Why it is showing? Because after rendered, when rendered callback method get called, the rendering has been done, and I am able to access the elements. That's why I am able to access elements. Like click me, right? Click me. What was coming in the alert? Click me. What is click me? Click me is the label of the button. This button, click me, and I am accessing this dot template dot query selector lightning button dot label. But if I do into these two methods, it will give null, and it will give a exception, because if you try to access properties of any null attribute, right, null object, it will give exception. So rendered callback, we can access the elements. So now let's see the example. For example, on the component creation, and after the rendering phase has been done, I want to change the label. I want to change the label of this button. How we do that? Let's see. Let's get this example. First of all, button label. Why it is coming error? Track. We'll read about track in when we discuss about properties, because track is a decorator. I will discuss later. Don't get confused. Just see, it is a property, button level. I have created one button level, and I have to make it dynamic, right? So I don't have to hard code this, right? So I have to bind. How we bind the properties? Between two curly braces. So I have bind button level here. So currently I was giving a hard coded value click me. Now I will give from the JS button level equal to click me. Sorry, my bad. This dot. So here also click me is coming now, right? Now I want to change this. I have initialized the button level, right? Click me. Now I want to change this. So I can do after here also. Click me changed in rendered callback. Removing the alert also. So we put the comment using double slash in the JS file. It did not get changed, right? This dot button level. Why? Because this dot button level. Was it deployed? Not. Sorry. It was not deployed. HTML. Yeah, you can see here. Click me change in rendered callback. However, I assigned value in connected callback, but it get changed in rendered callback.
But sir, click me. How we'll make sure that click me was appearing before it gets rendered completely?
We check this using sorry.
Here, click me is also there. Button label first unit slice. When
Hmm.
connected callback executed, then the button label was click me.
Right,
And when render callback been done, then button label was click me, change render callback.
right.
So before this, before the second option, the first option would have appeared, right? Click me.
It will not
Before,
appear.
before the page was rendered.
No. After means you are means you can say technically if you see means inserted into DOM means it all the elements are attached to it, right?
Uh,
But rendered has not render is not happened there, right? Render would happen only after rendered callback method call, right?
okay.
So when rendered callback method call, then the you can say that the all the properties, all the whatever we have done in the rendered callback, it may change. So in this rendered callback method, change the property of the button label.
Okay.
So as I discussed, you can set the properties in rendered callback, but best practices do not use rendered callback. We'll see the example of rendered callback in coming session also. So, for example, let's not get into that detail. It will very complex. We can access elements as we have already seen. We can access the elements. We can call apex method. We can call apex method also from here. We can create custom, sorry, in rendered callback. It is not constructor. We can call custom events from here also. We can use navigation service. We can use UI record API. We discussed about the UI record API. So why we say ki we don't use means try to be cautious about using rendered callback. We will see. Let me see. Show you example also. Let me show. So we can finish last. So this will be the last example we can. So let's see the example of rendered callback. Why we should not use rendered callback. If you are not using rendered callback properly, it will create problem. Let's see. Okay, it's fine. Button level. Let go. I think I have made the rendered callback example also. So let's, I think, what, where is that LWC? Yeah, here. What I have done here. Okay. Okay. Change greeting. Yes, yeah, I have already made this example. Let's see this example. Let's understand this example. So first of all, let's see the code of this. So this is a rendered callback example component. I have just created a template here, right? And there is a one property, right, which is declared in JS, right? And there is a button, lightning button, and label is change greeting. And on click event, there I am calling one method on handle button click, right? So on handle button click, I am assigning hello, good morning. And on whenever we click the button, one method is getting called, and I'm assigning this greeting property, right? Greeting variable. I am assigning one value, hello, good morning, in this greeting variable, right? So this value should be there, right? After click, this value should display. But what happens? We see here. Reset by rendered callback. I have why this value is coming? Because after rendered callback, the greetings, because whenever we are loading the component, right, the rendered callback will be called finally, and the value will be default value will be reset by rendered callback, right? Currently the value will be reset by rendered callback, right? Agree everyone? Whenever I load this component, right,
Yes.
the value of the greeting will be a reset by rendered callback, right? Because ultimately rendered callback will be called, right, for this component, and the value will be assigned, this value will be assigned into the greeting. But when I click the button, the value should be hello, good morning. Should be hello, good morning, but it will not. Why? Let's see. No. Change greeting. I'm assigning this dot greeting hello, good morning. Why it is not getting changed? If you see the console,
Oh, because this render callback again gets called.
right, it is calling again and again. Why it is calling again and again? Because we are changing the value here. And when we change the value, the component get renders once again. Because why it renders? Because you are changing the property, the value of the property. And if you are changing the property, value of the property, and that property is bind on the HTML page, it will rendered again. And if it is rendered again, then rendered callback will also called. And ultimately that is resetting the value. So if you see, you see how many times rendered callback method called, right? So this is the not the this is, so that's why I told ki be cautious about using rendered callback. So yeah, there is a solution. You can use one property has rendered. I'll explain you what I'm doing. If has rendered, this dot has rendered. Means it will run only once right now. Let's see. Now you can see it got changed.
Right.
So using, if we want to run rendered callback, if I have the logic, and I have to run only once, so we can put this check here. After that, it will not run this logic. So there will be a requirement you have to do for the first time only. So this way you can put the check. Means after rendering the component, you have to perform some logic, but you have to perform that logic only one time. Then you have to put this logic here. If you don't put this logic, it will run again and again. It will break all the logic of yours, right? So I hope we understood about these three methods and how the sequencing are getting called, how they are getting called in sequence, and what are the features of these three methods. But however, this will come in handy when we'll study about another things in the coming sessions. Then you will relate. Okay, I can do in this connected callback, I can do in the rendered callback, I can do in the constructor, I can do in this connected callback. So if you know the basics, you will relate these things in the coming sessions, right? So I hope I am done for the today's session. If anyone has questions, you can ask. Yeah, so if anyone has question, you can ask. So basically, I will tell you. So currently, I'm running a live session of LWC, right? And I've already run Apex session also. And Anil sir, Irfan, Akshay, they all have attended, and I think their feedbacks are also there. And I am blessed they have attended my sessions and they got some benefits from my sessions, right? And those sessions are also recorded and converted into course also, right? So you can also watch that previous sessions. And currently I'm running LWC live batch, right? And this was the second. However, this is a fourth session. We first two sessions are of JavaScript also. So we talked about JavaScript in, you can say, we have touched every mostly used features of JavaScript in the first two sessions. Now we have just completed to the fourth session. And if you want to come in live batch, it will be fine. However, it will get recorded and get uploaded on my website. You can also opt for recording also. And one benefit is also here, you can contact me if you are stuck on any topic. So according to our time availability, we can connect and discuss. So this benefit you'll get. Okay. So I hope if anyone has not any questions, so we can disconnect for the day. So I hope Pawani, Sunil, you must have you must be taking something from this class. I hope I am able to make you understand.
Yes, Abhi.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So okay, thank you everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.